Well, thanks for joining me, Crystal. Thanks for jumping on today.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Hey, so I actually just met you for the first time right before we pushed record. And I feel like man, I know this lady from social media. So I feel like I know kind of who you are from Instagram. And I noticed that you do a lot of things in the real estate community and selling homes and have groups and things like that. So I was like, I want to bring you on and hear your story. So if you could just start by introducing yourself and kind of give us how you got into real estate, why you got into real estate and when, and just kind of catch us up to from then and to now.
Okay. So I think this is my almost 11th year in real estate. I was a teacher for years. I actually worked with special ed kids and I was a coach. So I lived at the school for 12, 13 hours a day. And then I had kids and I decided to stay home because honestly, the teaching salary, by the time we paid daycare, it was like we were saving $200. So my husband's like, why just stop working. It's better. So I decided to stay home. And then I am a big doer. So it was really hard for me to just be home. Not that it's hard for anyone else. I really respect it. And I think it's so important for women to be involved with their kids and raise their kids. I'm very into that. But I just needed a little something that was for me that kept me focused and challenged. So my parents were actually realtors their whole life. And growing up, I really saw the ebbs and flows of it. I actually hated it. I was like, we were either doing really well and things were really good or things were awful. And it was so tight. And I remember they were partners. So they would as a kid, you think it's arguing, but now looking back, it wasn't arguing. It was like discussing the deal. And I remember my dad would have his yellow pad out. And I was like, I hate their job. I wish they had an 8 to 5. But then all of a sudden I started helping my dad. My friends were looking for houses because they were getting older. And I was like, I started playing with MLS and started doing some things. And I was like, I think I'm going to get licensed. And I kind of thought I'd do it sell a home for a friend once a year, just a little something. But then God kind of had a different plan and it kind of morphed into its own beast, if you will. And I do it full time and it's very rewarding, but it kind of turned into its own thing from there.
So you've been doing it for how many years did you say?
This will be my 11th in December. So 10 and a half.
Okay, very cool. How are you finding how do you find most of your business?
That's a great question. And this is a funny story because Chris will appreciate this, but I get asked that question a lot. And I do things a little different. So I've never been a lead generator. I've never done anything to get the word leads. I have always, and people laugh. Sometimes people think I'm even kooky, but I believe in praying and tithing. And that's kind of how I've always gotten my business is I will pray, okay, God, who do you want me to work with? And then we, years ago really started to do the tithe thing, like the real 10%. And it's just kind of what I remember. I always tell this story. One day we were broke when I was staying home. It was really hard on one income. And I would even clean houses on the side to kind of have money to go get my nails done or go to dinner that weekend. And we would tithe like $20. And one week we missed church and we got to go to Chipotle. And I was like, yes, this is great. And one time someone wanted me to give money for my sister-in-law who's getting married. And I didn't even have enough money to donate to that. We had to bring our quarters in and pour it into a jar. And that's how I gave her money. And I was taking my test and I was like, I'm never going to be this broke again. And that's when I really started tithing and trusting God. And I just believe in taking care of people, showing up for people, and God willing, that turns into something. It all comes back around. So I believe in just doing a really good job and trusting that referral base.
Yeah, I love that you brought up tithing. I'm a tither too. My Bible tells me to, so I do. And so I think probably from 12 years old, I remember even on some of I'd have a lemonade stand and my mom would be like, you've got to tithe and then this is your money you can do this with. And so it was just kind of like a foundation for me that so when I got older, it was never even a question, it was just ingrained in me at such a young age that that's just what you do. So I'm a huge fan of that. I'm glad that
I
you
love
said
that.
that. Yeah, just God will take
Well,
care
it's
of you, won't he?
funny because I've gone to meetings. You know how it is in real estate, like the lenders. And there was this big lender I really wanted to start doing business with. And they sat me down and they're like, so tell us how you get leads. And I was like, well, I pray and I tithe. And they're like, well, that's great. But what else do you do? And I just, especially back then, I just prayed and tithe. They're like, okay, well, it was nice meeting you. They were done with me. They thought it was a little weird. But when I first started the business and we were working out, started paying off our debt, we are big Dave Ramsey people, and we really started paying off our debt. And it was so boring. I'd sell a house and we'd pay off our debt, sell a house, pay off our debt. One time my credit card changed because we started doing it automatically. You know how that happens. And I got a new card and the tithe wasn't coming out. And I was like, this is awesome. Like, I'll still give, but I'm going to pay for my friend to get her hair done or to buy some groceries. And then I kind of have more control of it. It's more fun. And my business, I swear it slowed down. I swear. And I was like, so I kind of kept going like that. When you sit and you have to like log in and change your password and do all that to change your credit card, I just didn't want to sit and do that. Then all of a sudden my business really, I started to feel like I was slow. I was the slowest probably I've still ever been. And one day I'm like, that's it. I'm going to sit and fix that credit card. And the day I did it and I set up the automatic tithe, I got a call later that night. And I tell people, not that it's like magic, but when you really lean into him and you give it to him, like you'll be surprised what happens, in spite of that.
So
and even in times when I'm slow, sometimes it's like, there was one season where I was slower and I started to worry. And then my uncle ended up being diagnosed with cancer. And then it was like also like the timing I needed to kind of be available for him,
I do. Yeah. I remember when do you remember about 7 or 8 months ago? Cause for anybody listening out of state, it might not have been this way in their market, but about 8 months ago when it just started to slow down a bit. Remember how it felt like a frenzy and then it just slowed down. And not only it stayed like that for about 2 or 3 months. And I was still busy, but it definitely stopped going as fast. And I was so thankful because it was like the first time in like 2 years where I was like, I got to get my morning routine back. And my Bible study. And then I like to go to the gym. And I really just like having like 3 hours to myself before the day, like the world starts happening.
Yeah.
Just like put myself together is what I always tell my wife. Like, hey, I got to put myself together and then I can go give value to the world. And so it was that like season right there where I would just like, I'd pray and I'd be like, God, I'm so thankful for like things just slowed down a bit. And like, I don't understand sometimes what's going on, but like I got into like, I got into such a flow in my morning routine. And now like things are like way back to busy again, but like I've got a foundation again where like that's now there. And it feels so good that like it took that little bit of a season for me to get that into check. And it was like with my like eating, my fitness, my Bible study. And that's when I started like getting a lot more serious again. And I was like, so you just have seasons. And I appreciate them. You go through seasons, you got to appreciate them, love them, and realize, God has a plan for you. And sometimes you're not in control. So you just got to keep going and do your thing. Let me ask you a question, because you brought up the Dave Ramsey thing. I never thought I'd ask you this, but I want to lean into that. So I was a Dave Ramsey guy as a young age. My mom did Crown's Ministry. I don't know if you ever heard of that, but it's kind of more of like it was something that the church did. I went to a church that it was called Crown's Ministry, kind of same concept, right? Get out of debt. So I was a huge fan of both those people, Crown's Ministry, Dave Ramsey, and I am a huge fan of it for people and helping them get out of debt. What made you go down that journey?
That's an interesting question. So my husband's family was very like pretty debt free. Like they had paid for his college, they were able to, and I had a lot of student loans. And my brother, my parents always struggled. Like I said, we always struggled. Like we still talk about one time they were going to lose the house and they had 2 deals fall through. And now it's more relatable than it was then. And all of a sudden they had something come out of nowhere. So my whole life, I remember always worrying, and my parents, it was always tight. And my brother, when he probably was 23, he did Dave Ramsey, and it totally changed the projection of his life. So my brother is 6 years older. So he's kind of like my second dad, third parent. And he has really tried to instill those values. He has his house paid off. He lives a very abundant life. So seeing him kind of live like that and seeing Kyle's parents kind of live like that, Kyle and I it was so tight when we were on one income. We decided that we had this like chains. I had 60,000 in student loans. I had, we put a little on our credit card and do this and that. And it just felt like we couldn't catch up. And to tell you the truth, what really was the kicker is we had a financial advisor that was a friend of ours. And we sat down with him. Our kids were like 1, 2, and 3. And we're like, we'd like to invest. And so he's like, okay, bring all your financials. And we were young, so we sat down and he said, he looked at everything. And I think we had $500 in savings. We had probably $1,200 in our account. And we probably had $1,200 on a credit card, 60,000 in student loan debt. We had 20,000 on a truck debt. And we thought we were living good. We're like, we're doing good. And he said, we're not going to invest until we get this all dealt with. And I respect him so much. And I'm loyal to him now, even still, because he spent 2 years with us. And his only goal was to get everything paid off. And we didn't invest $1. So in turn, he doesn't make a dollar until you start investing. But he really taught us the importance, and he was a Christian. And he said, God wants us to live this way. So we did the class, and we literally just buckled down and paid off debt. And we really went that way. And lo and behold, who would have known 2 years later, my husband would have quit his job, and we were able to start another business because luckily we only had, our house, and we were able to kind of take that leap
Yeah,
because of that.
life gets freed up. Like I coach a lot of agents, and that's just something that I like really encourage all of them is, it's like I kind of joke, and it's kind of in a joking way, but I'm like, it's always hard to get on the scale, like
Yeah.
that, like, but in finances, like most people just, they don't want to look at it. And I'm like, man,
Yeah.
if you really know what's up, then like you can attack it. But like, I mean, I'm in a position right now outside of my houses that I own, like I'm debt free, and you get a stress less,
Yeah.
if a deal falls through, you don't have such anxiety. You can really do what's right for the clients and not have to pressure people. You can give more than ever to whoever you want to give to. It's just like, it really does free people up. I'm so like, it's so interesting to me how people aren't like talking more about that subject.
Yeah. You're
And I'm
right.
like, man, I wish more people talked about that subject because I think it's such a powerful one. Like if you just can get out of debt, your life just like frees up. But also what I've noticed is just like that income creep that comes in, as like realtors, you can go from making 60,000 a year to 200 to 400 to 900. And if you just like don't get caught up in the whole buying cooler things, nicer cars, nicer houses, and you just stay like where you're at and you just let this like life be easy, it can really like be pretty cool. So I'm glad you mentioned that because I never thought I would have a Dave Ramsey conversation with you when I brought you on. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
Well, it's interesting with what you said, piggybacking on that, if you don't mind. But
Yeah.
so in real estate, when I got into it, Kyle was still had a set income. He worked for his family's company, and it was kind of set. They paid for a lot of our things. We were used to me not working. So I didn't really have to make money. It was more like it was bonus. Well, fast forward to when he quit his job and I had to make money to pay the bills. It was all on me. Real estate was a completely different beast. And I think it's so important for agents to carry enough or to live under their means, because when you're negotiating a Binzer, and that it's not maybe best for that client to move forward with this house, but you're paying your bills on that house, you're being pulled in so many directions for what's right for them and what's right for you. And luckily enough, most of the time I don't have to, I live way below our means so that I don't live with that mindset, because for that 6 months, it changed my whole perspective on being an agent, because I had to close X, Y, and Z to make our bills. And, like the stress of it was completely different than what I was used to.
Yeah, I actually say that to agents, or not agents, my clients often. I think they truly respect it. And I'll tell them all the time, like, hey, because they sometimes feel this pressure, like, oh
Yes.
man, I'm not buying this house anymore. Like, I feel bad for you. And I have
Yeah.
I have a lot of referrals. So these people love me. And I kind of like say it like nice to them, like, hey, I just want to let you know, like, I'm totally good. Like, my bills aren't being paid with this closing. So like, I just
Yeah.
want you to know, like, I want what's right for you. I'm good. Like this is
More.
about this whole process is about you, not me. If you decide you don't even want to buy a house or sell a house, I'm totally fine. Just note, like, I'm good at what I do. I'm here, but like there's no pressure in this process. Please note that. I feel like
I love that.
there's an ease to the process. The same as like when I sit down with people at listings, I try to talk them into like keeping their house as an investment property. And I
Yeah.
think that also like lightens up the
Like,
conversation too. Cause
yeah.
they're like, oh, like this guy's genuinely like trying to care for my assets
Right.
and like think about like what's more important than just like his like commission. So I think it goes a long way with our clients. So okay, so when you say tithe and pray, I love that business strategy. I've never said that, but I'm gonna add that to like I do that, but I'm gonna add that to like actually my official
Totally.
planning like class. So where like are all your listings then like through referrals and through your
Yes.
past clients referring? Tell
Yeah.
me more about that.
So as a team, we don't buy leads. We have never bought leads. Not that it's wrong. It's just a different business model for us.
Yeah.
I think it's great. And we've even talked about it and Dan's done it, but we're a small knit team of agents. And we've been blessed enough where we can stay, busy just based off referrals. So, but when I started, and I think that's a misconception in real estate, if you don't buy leads or you don't have a lead generating source, when you're a new agent, it takes a minute to get going. It's going to be a minute. And luckily, my dad had been in, so I had him. And then when we first started with my old broker, we did get leads from Relo. So it wasn't that I never had a lead generating source. I think that is a misconception. It's very hard to get started without something that gets momentum going so that you can build referral based business.
Yeah.
But even my first client, I remember it took me like 6 times to pass my test. And it was
Five for me.
really,
Yeah,
oh my gosh, Chris, I
I
have this
literally,
series.
I have a post going out in like 3 days, and it's all this is 17 years ago. They look like mug shots because I was young and I had long hair. I have them scheduled to post in like 5 days. I think 3 days. It's like an April Fool's post, and it says like mug shots are trying to get my real estate license.
No
And
way.
it's pretty crazy. So, okay, so 6 times for you.
6 times. And
This is like
so
a club we should start.
yeah, no, but I have this theory because I've had other agents that have struggled. One of my best agents on my team, I think she was like 8. And I read this thing, I watched this video a while ago about it was like a motivational story. And the guy said the roadblocks that get in the way of you doing something aren't there to stop you, they're to see how bad you want it. And that was so key for me because I'm like, God, am I not supposed to do this? So I was so stressed during my test, I got Bell's palsy. So this story is kind of funny. I tell it all the time, but so I had to wear an eye patch because your eye doesn't close and you droop. You know, it looks like you've had a stroke or that you know, have special needs or because you lisp. It's a different thing. So I'd go to my test and I'd be like, oh, you know, and they thought like something was wrong and I kept failing it. And they were like, don't worry, you're gonna pass, you know? And I'm like looking to the guy next to me with this patch. It was like everything was falling apart. And I was like, God, why isn't this easy? I feel like I'm being called here, but yet it's not working. And the grit that it took to get through that process, I find that the agents that it doesn't come easy, they actually do really well in the business because that was only the beginning. Then my first deal, they almost sued me. And I was like, oh my gosh, what the heck? I'm not supposed to do this. But you know what? That grit kept me going. And that's why I've sustained the ups and the downs and all the crap that comes with it sometimes.
Oh, that's
So I believe when it is hard to pass, I think you're going to be a good agent.
I actually teach a class and I show those pictures before I start, and I kind of make a joke and I'm like, hey, if this kid can make it, like you can too. I do know that. And then I kind of make that joke too. And I'm like, hey, there's nothing that says just because you took it many times that you're going to be a failure or success. Like that's just a totally different class. It has nothing to do with actually real estate, in my opinion, or how to run a real estate business for sure. So when you like, do you do anything with like your repeat and referral network? Like, do you do any type of marketing now? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah. And that honestly, the first couple of years, I didn't know how to, there's being an agent and there's running a business.
Yeah.
And they're kind of two different heads. So I could be a good agent, but I didn't know how to run a business or a sustainable business for years. It kind of like each client that came, I took care of them and then I lost contact. And so we do have a pretty good like system now of our CRM and how we take care of our clients. So we look at our clients as like extended family, I'm sure as you do, because I can tell by the kind of person you are. And then we really focus on things that really work and that let them know that we care about them, that we're competent and that we love them. So we have things throughout the year that we do for our clients throughout the year to make sure they remember us. Because again, if you're not in front of them, they're going to call the person that is. And then that also make us stand out and be different and show we care. So we have that I feel like we have it pretty dialed in now.
What does that look like? So what does that look like if you had to do like a yearly basis? What do you do to touch them?
Okay. So we touch them on every birthday. We send cookies or something to mail. So every client or everyone in our sphere, even clients that aren't a client that are someone we care about, that's in our sphere. It's people that we love and that we would send a Christmas card to for the most part. I mean, not every, but pretty close. Then we usually try to do something every quarter. So we sit down at the end of the year and kind of outline what we want to do for the quarter. We have some things that we just stick to. We always do like a thankful magnet with the team picture for Thanksgiving. We just did something new this year. We just did the lottery tickets for March. We usually try to like do a delivery of some sort throughout the year, and that can get tricky. But we did wrapping paper with like a little bag for Christmas one year. We also did like a summer fun bag of like toys and sunscreen before summer started. And then we usually try to do another thing that adds value. That would be like one time we did like a clean and dirty magnet for your dishwasher that you can turn, but we try to not do what everyone else is doing. We try to always make sure it's something that will stick. And then we also have like 2 big events throughout the year that our past clients can come to.
What have those been? I'm asking actually because I've got, for the first time, I've got a movie theater. So like in 2 weeks, Mario Brothers. So like my office, my assistant planned it. And so I show up, but I'm interested because like I do a lot of referral business and I've never did like an actual client event like that. So I'm like
Yeah.
wondering, pros, cons. What have you did for like events?
So one of my biggest things that we do, and I went to a class actually at my home group once, and it was about like how to get your business going. And the guy was amazing. It was like a really good class. And he talked about find something you love and make that how you get your business. So in the class, he talked about like this lady likes shopping. So she started a shopping group. And every Saturday morning, they would walk the mall to get like their steps in and they would shop. And at the end, she'd give them a little bag with her logo on it. And he's like, if you genuinely love it, you'll want to do it. And then they'll see that you're competent and capable by the way you execute. So I like mission work and like serving, that's like something super passionate for me. So I decided, I think like 8 years ago, to start doing Feed My Starving Children. And it's like a simple thing. You can have a big group go and, we can all go together and we can serve. And so I didn't know if anybody would even want to do it, but I'm like, I really love mission. So now we have, I think, 150 people
Oh,
that sign
wow.
up. And it's about 45 minutes to an hour from us. So we load up. We load up and all meet in one area. We actually meet at my house now because I live like on land. So there's places to park. We get 2 or 3 charter buses. We load all the kids up, the families. We make shirts. We have sponsors. We give the kids goodie bags on the way. We all meet. We all go to dinner. We cover everything for them too. We cover the dinner. Then we load up the buses again and we go serve. And then we ride home and we usually do it around Christmas time. And we play Christmas songs. We watch a Christmas movie and it fills up in 5 minutes. People just love the event.
That's
So that's
cool.
like one of our big ones that's like we do every year that people really look forward to and it's sustainable. It's just the problem with that is I can't fit anymore. There's a limit.
When you've said the word team a few different times, what does that look like? Are you the leader of the team
Yeah.
and
So I'm the
what's
team
that
lead.
structure look like?
There's actually we've just buttoned up a little bit more. So there's 4 agents and then we have one full-time. She's in charge of our clients. So all client care. She makes sure everybody gets touched throughout the year. Anything we need, help with closing gifts, help with anything. She's fully in charge of just our clients. And then the rest are agents. But we do things a little different because we actually transaction for each other too. Nobody wants me. That's kind of rude. But the details and the paperwork isn't my strength anymore. But we actually put 2 agents in every deal. And it just finds that like when someone's slow, it keeps them busy and busy people have an energy to them and a confidence. So I find that it keeps us really like working together, keeps our process seamless. And then we also learn a lot because you learn a lot from all the different deals that are happening.
So with the 4 agents you have on your team, what would be your like what's your value proposition to them? Just like, because a lot of teams it's like, hey, I'm going to give you leads. If you're not buying any type of leads, what's like the value proposition to like the team? And like if you want to like tell me like any splits, if you don't want to, that's totally fine as
No,
well. But
I don't mind it at
how you
all.
structure that?
Yeah, so my value, and I'm very clear when I meet with people because I actually do get asked a lot because I think we're different. We see, and if you've seen some of our videos, it seems kind of goofy. Like it's a lot of women, and we seem like we're having fun, So everyone's like, I want to do that. I want to do that. And I'm like, yeah, it looks fun on social media, but it is fun. But so where I proposition them is when they do come to me, I said, I'm not going to give you any leads. And I do end up giving leads out, but I don't want anyone coming to me because of that.
Yeah.
But I will teach you how to do real estate my way, how I built my business, and I will help you run your business because we will take all that off your plate. Like that runs between me and the person that deals with the clients and the sphere. So I'll teach you how to run the business. And then I will also be with you every step of the deal so that you don't get sued and it's not stressful. And we have a system that's pretty outlined and smooth. And then I'll bring you in and we'll save people together. It's really the mission that people are bought into more than what I'm going to give. Yeah. And we do a 70-30 split.
Okay.
And then after they're with me like longer, we do branch down to try to keep them where they stay with me long term and it's not too high. But I think our lowest is still an 80-20 is where we're at.
I noticed you post a lot and this will probably lead into the staging because I see you stage a lot. And so I want to have a conversation on that because I've never staged a property. I like going into properties that are staged though. So I'm open to hear what your thoughts are on how you logistically structure that. But you're usually with an agent all the time when you do that. So is that like your like number one agent or just like one of your good friends?
No, so Tisha, my best friend and I, when I was doing real estate with my dad and when we started, I started to see this need. So my dad was older and he's a man, and they're not as like into the feel of a home.
Yeah.
Whereas a woman,
I can understand that.
we're very into the feel of a home. And so when we would list a house, I'd be like, gosh, if that light was changed, that would look so much cuter. And if the paint color was different, it would show so much better. But as I started to show buyers, I saw that my buyers were almost falling for it. Like a house would have, a different paint color and they would spend $10,000 more because it was gray instead of beige back when that was the thing. And I'm thinking, let's spend $2,000, $3,000 painting and we can exceed this. And I found that every buyer wanted the same home. Like as soon as it came on the market, it was cute, just like the new girl in town. Everybody wants you. And so I started to like figure out what that is that they wanted. And I started to like flip homes for my clients. And so we even like in a normal, when the market was like 3 years ago, we even paint homes, redo homes, fully flip homes before we sell them if they wanted to, and we could comp it. It has to be able to make sense.
So how does that look logistically? So when you're sitting down at a listing consultation, how does that get brought up? And is it only on vacant properties or will you do it on occupied properties?
No,
and just how does that work logistically and like financially?
Yeah, it's not maybe if you ask my husband, he would love this conversation because he thinks it is so stupid that there's no extra fee for staging. So it's actually my secret sauce. So when you hire us, you get full staging included because we stage usually every listing unless it's really dialed in, and we'll still kind of add things. But how it started was Tisha, my best friend, she became my transaction coordinator and she has a really good eye for design. So I started going into houses and like adding pillows and adding rugs. And one time it was a house that like I needed help. So I'm like, can you come help me? Pictures are in an hour. The house has stuff everywhere. Can you come help me? So then she came and helped me. And then we kind of built on there. The next house, we bought a few more things. And then one time, this is kind of funny. I haven't thought about this, but I was going to a listing appointment. That was like a cold call. It was a referral, but the appointment was going to be at 8:30 and it was in Scottsdale. And I didn't know the person that well. So as a woman, I wanted to maybe have a buddy because it was a little different. I was a little nervous to go by myself. So she had came with me and it was a really cool house in Scottsdale, but it had some like quirks that might have went the other way. And she was actually moving and she was selling her furniture on Craigslist. And she came to the listing appointment. She really loved the listing. On the way home, she said, my furniture would look so good in that house. I said, you're right. She said, you should buy it. She actually made a great sale. So I was like, you're right. So I bought her furniture and that was like the first house we fully staged. And it really made a big difference in how fast we sold it and the price we sold it. So then from there, we started building.
So when you say you don't charge an extra fee for that, so you're talking about like you legitimately will paint someone's house and all that and not charge?
So the painting is tricky. So It depends on because like this is where I tell my husband, I'm not stupid. There's still like numbers and I know the numbers.
Okay.
So I know how much to invest in a house to still make my percentage.
Okay.
But the last couple of years, as you know, a lot of agents were discounting. We just don't ever discount, like ever, because I am still giving a discount because I'm spending money to get your house sold. Because I do pay her money when she stages a house, but I buy all the furniture and we store all the furniture. So for her, she comes and tells us what to bring and we move it ourselves a lot of time and it's a lot. But when it comes to paint, if it's a low income house and let's say I felt led that I needed to pay, I would do that at the time, but I still have to make sure with what I spend that I'm still going to make 75%, even if I spend.
Okay.
But now and it took me a while to build up the confidence to have those conversations. They're not the easiest. But then as I got going now for paint and anything that's major, I'll give them a price of what I think they'll spend to make it and then what the return will be. If they spend A, they get B. So those kind of things we do now have our clients invested. They can also do where we pay them back at closing. We just add it onto the commission if they don't have the cash up front. But that is tricky because you get yourself into a pickle, when you're paying up front. It's kind of awkward conversations.
Yeah. I just noticed that I see you on your Instagram stories, like out there with the U-Haul some mornings, like,
oh yeah.
And you say like I'm staging, or you'll be at like Lowe's or Home Depot picking up some fans. And I'm like, this looks logistically like a lot, So when I see it, you look at it, I'm like that, that's like a cute three, it's 3 stories, and you're like, that 3 stories went by fast on my phone, but I'm like, that looked like a good 2 days worth of work.
Yeah. We luckily have it down for the most part. So how we do it is we usually stage Monday, Tuesday, pictures Wednesday, listing Thursday. So it is pretty outlined. We just went to a house today with Tisha, my stager. She actually ended up getting licensed, and now we do a lot together. But we went today and we took pictures, and then we know what we're going to bring in.
Okay.
This house is really nice. Their furniture is really nice. It has a good vibe. So we're only going to add in extras. Vacant houses, it depends. But like, sometimes there's that weird floor plan that you can't visualize.
Yeah.
I find that buyers, if they can't visualize it, you would think they would work at it. They just move on. They want, and everybody buys on the phone. So if I can win them on the phone, as long as it meets or exceeds their expectation, they'll write. So, yeah, logistically, it's like, Chris, I'm not going to lie, it's a lot of work. And on our team, when you come onto our team, it's something that we say, you're going to help stage. We help stage each other's listings. It's just like a thing.
Would you be
together?
Just a question. I don't know if you know the answer, but like, would you be able to scale that? Meaning like, if you were getting like 10 listings a month, would it be scalable, or is that just a problem that you'd have to solve at that point? Because I noticed some things that I did when I first started so 17 years doing this, I noticed like some things that I would do just like on a P&L standpoint with my coach, I would look at, and he'd be like, that worked when you were trying to sell like 40 or 50 homes. But then like when I got to 100 plus, like it turned into like a, whoa, I'm wondering, like, is that scalable? And if the answer is no, who
I don't
cares?
think it
like
would
it's
be
working.
So I've talked to a bunch of agents that have done it, and they do completely pivot, and they turn into a staging business on the side, and then their listings.
There you
and
go.
then they can write off that business differently. They can run that business differently, but you do have to keep a higher overhead in order to make that work numbers wise.
Okay.
For me, and this is something that's really different, and it's kind of like that meeting when I talk about tithing and praying, I only take 5 at a time, and that's because I'm full service. So for me and my income, my husband does good and I do good. And because we don't have a lot of debt, what my goals are different than what other people's are. I don't want to be, the biggest, best agent out there as far as numbers go. I'm more boutique style, more selective, and I only take 5 at a time. Now I have other members that can take more, but I just find it compromises me as a mom, me as a wife, and me as a person if I take more than that because of what we do.
Understood.
But numbers wise, I do great.
Good.
Like it still works. But again, that's something I've looked at in my own growth is like, in order to hit this, I would have to do this. But at this stage of life, I'm happy where I'm at.
Sure. Good.
Does it make sense?
Yeah,
it's
totally.
Different.
Yeah, totally.
Most business coaches are like, you idiot, but like, it's just, I have to balance what all my priorities are, not just work.
Yeah, understood. So what are you what are you looking forward to the most coming up like this year? Like what is the like thing that you're just like, man, I'm excited about this in my business right now?
I'm excited. I actually love this market right now, which sounds weird, but
you mean you can actually like, you can breathe in between a transaction?
Yeah, like I didn't like that
huh?
market. It was slimy. You could get your client 100 over ask and it wasn't enough. Or you had to promise your new buyer that they would take all their money out of their account to cover a waived appraisal. And that didn't feel right. What if something broke and this young couple is now tight and that affects your marriage? And that, like, I didn't love that market. It felt slimy. Like this market, I feel like people are moving because they might have to, they want to, or there's a life change. So I do feel like there's a lot of opportunity to add value in a way that's really meaningful right now. So I'm really enjoying it. And there's a lot more education that's happening right now on what the trends are and what the interest rates are. It's not like as scary as what the media makes it out to be. It's actually a great market right now. So I'm excited. For me, we've just gotten like, the team has gotten smaller, and that was a pivot for me because I am a winner and I am like, it's a hard balance for me, honestly, to not outgrow my own goals because I like to be the best. So sometimes it's hard for me to scale it. I know I want to be the best, but what can I do effectively right now? So we've gotten smaller and we've really buttoned up like some things that we've learned from in the past. And I feel like for the first time, things are just moving really smooth. Good. So I'm excited to see that keep growing and learning and knowing how to sustain that. And then I'm also excited about some of the clients I'm working with. It's like really cool experiences, like where they're trying to go and what they're trying to get. It's like, it's very meaningful, I think, right now, as compared to the last 2 years. It just changed.
Yeah. If you can get, I tell agents all the time, like, man, if you can get referral business, it's a game changer. I mean, I work, I get a lot of referrals. I also get a lot of leads, and I'm like, the leads that I close end up being great clients, but I'm like, it's 2 different roles that I'm playing in the day. I'm like, I always joke and I'm like, these people like love me, and these leads over here, like I might be on a dateline. I don't know, right?
Yes,
I'm like,
yes.
there's like, but like these people will come to my wedding, and these people, I don't know. Like this is up for debate on whether I'm going to be on a 2020. So like,
No, it's
I kind of go into it with that, but I'm like, they can both be great, but I'm like, those referrals are just like the best thing ever. It's almost like the biggest compliment. I know we overuse that in the industry, but I'm like, no, like I know what it takes to convert an online lead. And then when I just get a text message and it's like, hey, my brother wants to buy a house. And I'm like, oh, thank you, Jesus. Like, that's a good hookup right there.
it is. And that's, Chris, one of my biggest challenges, I think, as a team lead is I am not as strong. Like I see your systems and I see the things that you've built and they're awesome. I can tell, and I can tell you have that natural lead generating source that is so good. That's one of my weaknesses as a team lead is I'm not good at kind of, it's my model isn't so specific that it can work for 5 different people,
Mm-hmm.
and what you have going, I think is awesome. Like, I think there's a lot of really intriguing things about you.
Thank
But
you.
the good part about what I do and what I had to learn the hard way is when I was chasing leads and what I found with some of my new agents, when they were cold, when they're not someone that knows you, you have to prove yourself in a different way,
Mm-hmm.
which is everybody has to do it. But when you get like a warm lead, someone that's heard of you or seen you or knows you and trusts you, the whole process is like so much more enjoyable that it builds on that confidence. And then that confidence is what people are attracted to. You know what I mean?
I
But for
do.
new agents, you have to go through the dark time of
Yeah.
building your business. And it's not always fun or warm or good or cold. And you're constantly proving yourself.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like the I always say like with the referral, the trust. It's the because the buying of a house is the same. It's how when an online lead comes and it's like it takes you got to build that trust where when someone
yes,
refers you, they've transferred trust. And like that's called like because
yes,
they have a good reputation probably. So they know like, oh, I'm gonna refer, to Crystal because like they trust you. And that trust just gets transferred. We're like, you're just on the phone instantly. They're like, oh my gosh, hi, Crystal. And like the trust
yeah,
is just there. They're like, oh, I respect my friend. They loved you. They wouldn't do me
yes,
wrong. But it's like when you get on an online lead, it's just like,
it's a different
they,
thing.
they just don't, and not saying that they're not good people. It's just the trust not there. So you've got to actually build
Exactly.
it. You've got to tell them what you did or how you're going to help them to
Yes.
get there.
Yeah. And a little bit more about like yourself and what you can do, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. So what would you give, and we'll end with this, what would you give for some advice to a realtor right now? If they were just getting in the business, what would you say to that agent? To like, where would you tell them to start? Because I think it can be overwhelming with all the ways that someone can get business. What would you say? Like, this is the number one thing I'd probably do now, or I would redo if I had to start right now. What would you focus on?
I would focus on, if I were to start again right now, I would focus on what makes you uniquely you. Because there's going to be so many different agents, but there's plenty of business for everybody. So, how are you going to be different than the other person? What can you add? And then I would lean into that and really stand out for your authentic self. Because even like between you and I, that's where staging kind of came to play. I saw a need and I could match that need. So, like, why would they choose you over the next guy? What do only you have? And that again goes back to God. And like, what did he give you that's going to make you stand out to the guy next to you? And then lean into that. And then I would also say, it takes grit. Like, just because it's not easy doesn't mean you're not meant to be here. Is that something you can control? You can control how hard you work. And so, as long as you're going to outwork your competition in your own authentic way, you're going to be fine.
There we go. Crystal, thank you so much for coming on. I really wanted
Thank
to
you,
hear your
Chris.
story. I'm glad I heard it. I think the world will appreciate it and be thankful for it. So I appreciate you and your time.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, thanks, Crystal.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.